Gladys Knight finally tells the truth about Michael Jackson. When she was 81 years old, Gladys Knight was born on May 28, 1944, in Atlanta, Georgia. Her full name is Gladys Maria Knight. Gladys showed off her singing skills from a very young age. By the time she was 4, she was already singing leads in the church choir, and her voice was so beautiful that people thought she was much older than she was. Because her family saw how talented she was, they gave her a lot of support. When she was 8, she won Ted Mack's original amateur hour television show, which was a turning point in her early life and a sign of the great career she would have later. In the 1950s, Gladys got together with her brothers and cousins to form the Pips. The Pips were a family act that went on to become one of the most renowned soul and R&B bands of all time. Gladys, her brother Merrill Bubba Knight, and uncles Edward Patton and William Guest were the first people in the group. Over the years they worked on perfecting a polished, dynamic sound that mixed Gladys's deep emotional singing with their smooth harmonies and perfectly timed dance moves. In the 1960s and 1970s, they became famous together with a string of hits that became important parts of soul music. Fame spread across the country when they worked at Motown Records and put out timeless hits like I Heard It Through the Grapevine and Neither of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye. But it wasn't until they moved to Buddha Records that they became really famous. They recorded Midnight Train to Georgia in 1973. It was a moving song about love and suffering that became their signature song. They won a Grammy Award for the song, which put them in the history of music. It also topped the Billboard Hot 100 list. The raw, soulful, and deeply human way Gladys spoke captured the struggles, dreams, and strength of a whole generation. Gladys Knight and the Pips had many top 10 hits in the 1970s and 1980s, including Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, I've Got to Use My Imagination, and Love Overboard. They were one of the most versatile acts of their time because of how well they mixed gospel-inspired feeling, R&B groove, and pop crossover appeal. In addition to the music, their shows were full of class, grace, and unity. They were examples of hard work and success in the African American entertainment industry during a time of major social change. When the Pips broke up in 1989, Gladys Knight went on a solo journey without any fear, showing that her talent could stand on its own. Her solo record showed how she could change while still staying true to her soulful roots. She looked into church, pop, and modern R&B, getting more praise and reaching more people. Many Different Roads, her gospel album from 1994, showed how spiritual and connected she was to religion. Gladys made many contributions to the world, not just music. Her later works proved that she was a timeless singer-songwriter. She has been on TV and in movies, including the famous parts in Pipe Dreams and Tyler Perry's I Can Do Bad All by Myself. She has also been a guest on many talk shows and award shows. Because of how poised, humble, and strong she is not only a star but also a recognized elder in the entertainment business. In 1996, she and the Pips were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for their huge impact. Later, she earned the National Medal of Arts and Kennedy Center honors, which were both fitting tributes to a woman whose voice changed the music of many generations. Even though she is getting older, Gladys Knight still performs with all of her heart. Her shows are still celebrations of love, faith, and strength, and fans come from all over the world to see her. Many singers, from Whitney Houston to Beyoncé, have been influenced by Gladys. Their emotional honesty and vocal mastery are linked to Gladys in some way. Gladys Knight's personal life has been just as full of drama and emotion as her famous singing career. She has felt both happiness and sadness in love, marriage, and loss over the years. Each part has made her stronger and smarter than she was before. Knight's journey through 4 marriages shows how strong she is as a woman, as well as how strong her faith is, how deep her feelings are, and how optimistic she is about life and love. She married James Newman for the first time in 1960, when she was still in her teens and just starting out in her career. Gladys was juggling the duties of a rising singing career with those of a young wife and soon-to-be mother. They met in high school and fell in love with Newman. Their relationship seemed full of promise and young hope. They had 2 children together, James Newman III and Kenya Newman. These children would later play important roles in Gladys's personal and business life. It was hard on her marriage as her fame with Gladys Knight and the Pips grew because of the stress of show business and the long hours spent apart. Newman also had problems with drug abuse, which made their union less stable. With her love as a mother and an actress, Gladys took on a lot of the mental and financial load of her family. After 13 years of marriage, the couple got a divorce in 1973. It was the end of a union that had both great love and a lot of hard times. Even though it hurt, Gladys has often talked about that time with understanding, recognizing it as an important event that made her strong and changed the way she understands love. Knight married Barry Hankerson the next year, in 1974. Hankerson was a businessman and music producer who became famous as the founder of Blackground Records and the uncle of the late R&B star Aaliyah. At first, they were both very artistic and wanted the same things out of their relationship. Both of them worked in the music business and knew what it was like to be famous and under pressure. They had a boy together named Shanga Hankerson. To honor his mother's memory, he went on to open a chain of soul food restaurants called Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles. But the marriage quickly became tense. Priorities that didn't match, work disagreements, and personal problems made things more tense between them. In 1979, the relationship had hit its breaking point. It ended in a divorce that was hard on both the couple and their careers. Another big change in Gladys's life happened when they broke up. She started to pay more attention to her spiritual growth and inner peace. This taught her important lessons about how to find a balance between being successful at work and being happy with her life. Years later, in 1995, Gladys got married for the third time. This time she married Les Brown, a charismatic motivating speaker and author, who is known for his inspiring talks about overcoming obstacles and following your dreams. People were interested in their relationship because both of them were well known for their good attitudes and personal successes. At first glance, their relationship seemed like a great match. They were both passionate, strong people who had dealt with hard times in their lives with strength and grace. Even though they loved and respected each other, the marriage was hard to keep up. The couple's busy lives, different ways of living, and the stresses of public life started to get to them. In 1997, Gladys and Les split up after only 2 years of marriage. Even though it didn't last long, their marriage changed both of them in a big way. Gladys has often talked about how much she liked Les and how his optimism and spiritual understanding helped her find her inner calm and self-confidence again during a time of change in her life. Finally, in 2001, Gladys Knight found true love with William McDowell, a man who shared her strong morals and deep faith. Unlike the other relationships she had, this one was based on a deep spiritual bond. Knight's world had been filled with the chaos and emotional highs and lows of fame for a long time. McDowell, who wasn't in the entertainment business, brought security, peace, and grounding to the world. A lot of their time has been spent doing community and charity work together, mostly with faith-based and family-focused causes. He and his wife have also helped run the North Carolina community of Beulah Baptist Church, where Knight's voice is often heard in gospel music and service. There is no doubt that she has found a faithful partner in McDowell. They also work together in faith and service. Their connection is the start of a new part of her life that is based on spiritual growth, gratitude, and lasting love. The Empress of Soul, Gladys Knight, has worked in the music business for more than 60 years and has never been afraid to tell it like it is. Her relationship with Michael Jackson, the king of pop, is getting more open than ever now that she is 81 years old. Their friendship went far beyond working together in the same field. It grew out of years of admiration for each other, shared experiences as African American artists breaking down barriers, and Gladys's deep maternal care for Michael. This is the first time she's talked about how she really saw him, not as an unreachable celebrity but as a sensitive, talented, and troubled person. To start, Gladys talked about the first time she met Michael Jackson, who was still a child and singing with the Jackson 5. "From the very first moment I saw that boy sing, I knew he had something special," she added. "He had a light that was almost divine. Before he was even a teenager, he was able to control a large group of people." At that time, Gladys was already a well-known artist at Motown, and she saw how the young Jacksons were thrust into the spotlight. She remembered seeing Catherine, Michael's mother, backstage, and knowing right away that he was a child who would be both great and a pain. She said that his fame came too soon. It was silly for him to try to carry a mountain on his back. Gladys went from being a smart kid to one of the most famous artists in history over the course of many years. She said Michael didn't just act, he changed. He put everything he had into his art. People talk about how he danced and sang, but they don't always understand how much he cared about what he did. She said that Michael was quiet, shy, and often looking for real relationship behind the scenes. People thought he was a loud celebrity, but he wasn't. He was kind. He called me Miss Gladys, and we talked about religion, music, and love. He was such a good person. She also talked about how she saw Michael deal with the stress of being famous all over the world. No one is meant to be under that much pressure, she said gravely. It wasn't okay for him to mess up like other people do. Everything he did got 1,000 times bigger. She recalled times when Michael would talk about how mentally and physically tired he was. He said once, "Miss Gladys, sometimes I wish I could just walk down the street and nobody would know my name." That hurt my heart because all he ever wanted was to be that. When Gladys was asked about the problems that surrounded Michael's later years, he spoke with both kindness and strength. "People forget that Michael was human," she told me. "He made choices, yes, but he was also a man who carried the world's expectations from childhood. It's simple to judge someone who hasn't been through that. Some people tried to paint him as a monster, but I never thought he was that bad. Michael was taken the wrong way. He was sensitive, maybe even weak. The world didn't always love him back." Gladys also talked about Michael's art and how it has affected many people. "Michael did something that no one else will ever do. He changed music in a way that will never go back," she thought. "He made things possible for a lot of us. He was brilliant in his creativity and his outlook, and it came from a very strong feeling. He sang with a story in every note." She stopped, then said, "People think of him as a legend. And he was. But to me, he'll always be that little boy from Gary, Indiana with stars in his eyes." Gladys says she can still feel his spirit even though he has been dead for decades. "When I perform, I feel him sometimes," she said in a soft voice. "He seems to be smiling and watching from right there. I'm sure he's happy now that he's out of this world's noise. Michael gave us his heart," she said with a little shaking in her voice. "He gave us his happiness, and now we need to understand him. We should be nice to him." Over the years, Gladys has become a kind of defender of musical memory. He was one of the few artists who still knew so many of the greats. Her thoughts are not about other people or secrets. They are an ode to her. She said, "I'm not telling the truth to make a fuss. I'm telling you this because Michael was a beautiful person who should be recognized for that. I really love that boy, and every day I miss him." In her words, she both praises and warns about the heavy costs of fame. Gladys Knight knows what artists like Michael Jackson went through to become famous. She has been through her own problems in the press. "We all wanted a piece of him," she finally said, "but what he needed most was peace. I hope he has that now." When Michael Jackson died in 2009, Knight sang His Eye is on the Sparrow and the Lord's Prayer. Gladys Knight catches something rare when she is honest. Not just the truth about Michael Jackson's life, but also the real people who were behind the story. Michael was a guy who wanted to be loved for who he really was, not for the glitter, the moonwalks, or the records. Her reflections show this to everyone.